Are you a non-pianist that just wants to be able to sit down and play some basic chords that sound great? Well, good news for you. Today we are learning easy chords that sound great. It's so easy, it's just two letters. There's not even the real word. That's how easy this is going to be, but they do sound great. I'm Adam Manis. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is brought to you by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com to go on a deeper dive on all of this. Just a note too, there is a PDF for this session, so enjoy that. That's yours for free to take with you. I'm super excited about this because we get asked this all the time from horn players and singers and bass players and drummers. I just want to be able to play some very simple chords that I don't have to learn complicated voicings that just sound good, so I can sit down and play through the harmony of a song and maybe sing the melody or accompany someone else. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. And we're going to be doing it with a very simple, very basic shape. You know it, you love it. It's the triad. Triads are our best friends here in music because they can give us all of these different kinds of glorious sounds and make it easy for us to do complicated things, right? But in the easy way. And I do mean easy. So all jokes aside, we can make such great sounding chords with this very simple formula of root in our left hand and a triad in our right. In this case, we have a C major 7 and we have our root C in our left hand and the triad from a third up diatonically. So an E minor triad, E, G, and B right there in our right hand. Now you're saying, well, Adam, why don't you just say root 3, 5, 7? That's definitely a way you can do it. But the important bit is the structure of this root in the left hand, triad in the right. That's what makes it easy, is that we can use just this root and get that solid root foundation. And then we can move the triad around in all of its inversions. So an inversion, if you don't know, or you're a drummer, is when you move any of these notes around in any combination. So if you move the bottom note of E here up an octave, that's this inversion, the first inversion. If you keep doing that, you get the second inversion, and then we're back to the root. But then we can go all over the keyboard with this, and they all sound great. So here's our C major 7. This would be like a 1 chord. Like if you're in the key of C, you could play a C major 7, and it's always going to sound great with this E minor triad. What about a 5 chord? What if we wanted to get into the very next bit of harmonic information? How about a G7 sus? Now you're like, well, why is this the first chord you're teaching? Because check this out. We're going to go from our C major 7 with our E minor triad to our G7 sus. So I've got my root in the left hand and this F major triad in the right. And eventually we'll get through all of these. But how great is that? That's a 1-5. That'll take care of like 60% of what you need to do. Just those two shapes. Let's try those two shapes together because now, like I said, super easy. We're already onto something here. Play this with me here. Put a metronome on. Nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just moving that E minor triad up to an F major. Just 1-5 in the left hand. It's as simple as it can get, and it sounds awesome. And you're saying, well, why the G7 sus? Well, I said, well, it's because we can use that F major triad. But did you know that a G7 sus is really a dominant chord? It's a G7 chord, just with the third suspended. And it sounds good on 5 chords especially, like most of the time. Even if the third is in the melody, I'm not mad at that at all. I'm not mad at that one bit. That sounds great. It's tense, which it needs to be if it's the 5 chord. It's supposed to be tense. It's supposed to lead you somewhere. So that sus chord we can use. You can use it more than you think you can, honestly. You can use it all over the place and it sounds awesome. Okay, so our first pro tip here. This inversion is not the inversion you want to use. This doesn't sound the best. And I'm talking about the root position of our triads. So E minor with E on the bottom and our F major triad with F on the bottom. Those inversions are not where it's at. Where it's actually at is in the other two inversions. So let's look at the next inversion here. If we take the E, the bottom note, and we move it up an octave, we get this shape. And we'll move that entire shape down the octave here. So check that out. This sounds so magical. And again, it's super easy. It's just an E minor triad over a C. That's our C major 7. And and our 5 chord. 1, 5. Play this with me here and listen to this. 1, 2, 3, and gorgeous. What else do you need? And again, this takes care of like so much music. So much music is just this, 1 and 5. And knowing this can be so, so handy. So there we are. Like I said, we're kind of over halfway there for getting some great sounding chords that are E, Z. Now, what if we wanted to throw in another inversion here? What does the next inversion sound like? Let's hear this one. So we're up. We're going to take here our G up an octave, right? So our E minor triad in a different inversion. Play this with me here and just listen. Again, just thinking of this as for any major 7 chord, we can build it off the 3rd, a minor triad. And for any 5 chord, we can just do that major triad from a whole step down. That's all you got to know. Bam. That's it. I get so excited about this because it's so much fun and it's so easy to do. It really is like the easiest way to sit down and just play some good sounding chords. Very, very basic. The key too about having that left hand as just the root, that means that you're free to play like the chord changes and the bass movement with your left hand. So you can let that move around if you want once you get a little more established with your piano technique. It's a great place to start. What if we want a 2 chord in the mix? Especially with like Great American Songbook standards and things like that. 2 chords are all over the place and we're going to need to know how to address them. The good news is it's still that same F major triad. So here's our 1 chord with our E minor triad. Let's stick in this range here. I like this inversion specifically. It sounds really cool. So our E minor triad in this inversion, our D minor 7, which is our 2 chord, you see this all the time. You can just use that F, the same triad you were using on the G sus. And you don't have to change it either. Check this out. Play this with me. 1, 2, 3, and that's all you need? We'll add some more, sure. But this is good. If you knew this in both of these good sounding inversions in all 12 keys, I mean, you're rolling then. You're singing along. You're playing good sounding chords. There's good voice leading happening. Sussing it out. Man, that sounds great. I love it so much. Well, what if we do want to resolve our suspended sound there? It's super easy from this point. That F major triad, here if we look at our D minor 7, all we have to do is move that 7th of D minor, that C. You can actually think about it as the root of the key that you're in. So we're in the key of C, right? Or if you're not, even if you're in the key of C, but you're doing a 2-5 to F, that F, right, moves down. So here, the C moves down to B. And that gets us our G9 sound, right? So now we get a true 2-5 where we're going minor 7 to dominant 7. And again, you could still suss this out if you wanted to. And then resolve it. That would sound great. Let's listen to the sound here where we actually resolve that sus by moving our 7th of the 2 chord to the 3rd of the 5 chord. It's just that half step movement. That movement is so crucial. Try to hear that. 1, 2, 3, and. I mean, there you go. What else you need? We'll get there. But still, there's so much you can do with this. This is like, now we're at like 75% of standards. At least for sitting down and just knocking out the harmony. There's so much here. One more time. I love it. And don't forget to take it to other keys. Take it to F, take it to B flat, take it to E flat. You don't have to go through and hit all the hard keys first. Hit the keys that you know you're gonna have to be dealing with. Okay, well, that's a major 2-5. That's a major cadence. It's a major 5-1 cadence that you're going to see all over the place. We've got a couple of inversion options that we can work with. We've got a sus chord. We've got a 2 chord. We've got a resolved to the 5 chord, the dominant, right? We've got it all, don't we? Okay, what if we want to take this to its relative minor? It's a valid question. Here's what this would look like. So here's a little bit longer of a progression. We're still going to do our major 2-5-1, right? Our F triad, we just move that C down to B. Everything else stays the same. We move the root down to G7. Back to our C major. Let's go a different inversion. So we'll move this inversion around. That's the great part about using triads, is you can just move the inversion and it gives you a little bit of melodic movement on the top note here. Now we have our minor 2-5-1 to A minor, right? So we're going to use the same principle. B minor 7 flat 5, that's the 2 chord going to A. And it's diatonic in C, right? It's just a D minor triad. Any half diminished chord, minor 7 flat 5, you can just use the minor triad, a minor third up, right? D minor over B is how you can think of it. And then just like with our major 2-5, how we move that 7th down a half step, right? The C, which is the 7th of D minor, we moved it down a half step. Same thing here. We can move that 7th, which is A of B minor 7 flat 5, down to E7 flat 9. And check it out. We can continue this pattern here with our A minor 7 D9, right? Here's our A minor 7, that's just C over A, right? The same thing as F over D. Same relationship, same ratio. And this, just like D minor 7, we just move the 7th of D minor down to the 3rd of G. For this, we use this, we move the 7th of A minor, the G here, down to the 3rd of D, D9. And we'll end on a gorgeous little G7, sus4, all you could ever want. So the whole thing sounds like this. I mean, come on. That's super easy, and it's really beautiful. It sounds great. Let's play it. 1, 2, 3, and. Let's do it again. 3, and. All of these voicings are going to sound great. They really are. And in the other inversions, that's what's so beautiful about the triads. I could do this here in different inversions, and it's going to sound great. These are the same triads, just different inversions. It sounds awesome, right? It's all you need really to get started with any chord progression. Try it on some tunes. Try it on a rhythm changes. You know, try it all over the place. It really does sound great. Okay. So I wanted to talk about one more pro tip for these very simple voicings and this very simple structure. Some people ask me about, well, what about when the bass is different from the root? And it's a great question. So if the bass is either the 5th or the 7th, you could pretty much stay the same, but there's one thing you might do here. So here we have C major 7 over G, right? So the 5th is in the bass. Now, instead of just playing our E minor triad, you're going to want to put the root into the right hand. So with the same, you can still play that E minor triad, just add that root in so that your audience knows it's still a C major 7 chord over the G, right? So really now you're just playing like literally a C major 7 shape in any inversion over that root. You don't want to just play the E minor 7 because this is just a G6 shape. It doesn't really scream C major 7 unless the C is in the chord somewhere. So that's just something. And that happens if the 7th is in the bass too, which sometimes happens. So for instance, if you were to do like a D minor 7 over C, right? You're going to want to put the D in the right hand so that your audience knows that this is a D minor sound, that D is part of that, right? So that's our first thing. Then there's a very special version of this for when the third is in the bass. So oftentimes you'll hear someone play this kind of thing for a G over a B, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with this per se, but listen to how it sounds if we don't double the third in the chord. If instead of doubling the third, we double the root in the right hand. Way stronger, right? Those thirds kind of can't start canceling out some overtones, but those roots are way, way stronger, and they just give you a much nicer sound. So whenever the third is in the bass, like here, if you have G over B, try to not play the third in the right hand. Instead, you can double the root, or you can double the fifth. So you could have G, D, G like we have here too, or we could have D, G, D, like you can have here. It sounds way better than a bunch of thirds in the right hand, for my ear. It's not wrong, it just sounds a little bit better. There is one more option here that Steely Dan fans may know, and that's the moo chord, right? So it's the same concept where we're not going to play the third in the right hand, but instead of doubling the root, we do a little 2. We add the 2. In this case, it's like a G2 over B, right? So this shape, G, A, and D, with a B in the bass. Does that sound great? It's my favorite. It's super crunchy. It reminds me of Steely Dan. I love it so much. Okay, so here we have just a very common, walk down chord progression you might see. And here I have C major 7, right? Our E minor triad, our G over B, right? That's our B in the bass. We're going to use that moo chord. So it's like a little G2 sound. A minor 7, that's a C over A shape. An E over G sharp, another moo chord, right? We've got the 2 F sharp in the chord instead of G sharp. And then check it out. Our C major 7 over G, remember, we have our E minor shape, but we want to add that root into the right hand. Little G7 sus. Bam. Let's hear how this sounds. 1, 2, 3, and... Try it again. 3 and right? You could do worse than that. That's pretty good. And that's all we need. Easy chords that sound great. I told you it would be easy. I knew I told you it would be easy. Hey, listen, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're new to Open Studio, why not subscribe? We go live here all the time. We're always releasing several videos a week just like this. So hit the subscribe, maybe even put the bell on so you get notifications. That's it for me today, folks. Thank you so much. Until next time, happy practicing.